Hi, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. Dogboat333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4, The New Order as Mexico. Now, last time we were here together, we started working on some stuff for the peasantry, mainly with agricultural reforms. We also faced a fair bit in the way of opposition when it came to, well, not major, like, external opposition, but some internal issues with our plans at, how do you call it? Infrastructure expansion in native communities. But we still got it done. And, some people, had some issues with that, but they'll just have to, how the kids say it, cope and seethe? Yeah, cope and seethe. The small bumps jostled the passengers. The white limousine continued its voyage, touring the state. The radio filled the car's silent air with a sway of tunes and Spanish lyrics, but failed to pierce the tension surrounding the two passengers. Both were looking out of the window. One of them did so to see the aimless roadside shacks, wondering of the conditions of the people milling about their day. The other looked outward to avoid the disappointment emanating from his fellow passenger. Your Excellency, he gulped as he turned to face the unignorable, who was still staring out. If this is regarding Mr. GPG, then he may have no need to worry. These new measures I have in place, I mean, they speak for themselves, really. The grills will be gone before the year's end. And that's not just talk. These new policies I have in place will... Driver. Madrazo, who gazed out the window, focused on something particular before speaking again. Head out to that hacienda. Generic Duran shifted his body towards the president further. Your Excellency, we can't fit that in the timetable. We'll miss the rally and then... Governor? The president sighed before finally turning to face him. I'm tired of those stage-managed rallies. I'm tired of fake happy smiles. I'm tired of visiting places that don't truly represent Mexico. I need to see the other side of Mexico. The one with conditions at birth for GPG. The car shifted as it ascended higher as it drove closer to the new destination. The window watcher looked back at the kilometers of shacks, then forward the vast manner of some pre-official. He turned again and faced the governor, red-faced and silent. Embarrassed, Madrazo figured. Madrazo agreed with Duran on that. This was an embarrassment. The southwest. Well, we still need some time to pan out. Let's head back to up here. Uh-oh. Oh, Jesus, we got like 3 events. Hector was among the various pre-delegates and representatives of CNC, with a typhoon holding a few pieces of paper. Crowd turned towards the man from the south and heeded his words. Here I hold the various demands. No. Necessities for workers that will be followed in all commercial farms nationwide, regarding the workers and their treatment, from wage increases over time, maximum hours and safety. Everything listed in this document will become the gold standard for all farm workers. Hector listened on as Madrazo's short speech drummed to a close. So, as with hope that you will accept this document and put it in enforcement the moment you are able to. Each hour delayed, another worker toils without fair compensation. Another hour in which we are unfaithful to revolution. The chamber descending into a roaring applause, Hector joined in as the room was filled with the sound of advancement. If only progress was always this easy. Oh, there we go. And you sure we can trust this guy? So Salvador Gaitan, commander of the GPG 2nd Column. I get that his youthful enthusiasm is only getting us so far, but it's all all it's going to take is him disappearing over a couple hills, and then we'll have a whole platoon up our ass. Look, the Mexico City cadre said this guy was legit, said Arturo. If they trust him, I trust him. Besides, he's not in the army anymore. A dishonorable discharge or something like that. In any case, who else is going to pay him? We're paying him? Thought we didn't have access to UGOCM funds anymore. Mexico City are. Damn, tuition must be cheaper than I thought. Maybe I should change my ways, get an education, make something of myself. Really clean up my act, you know? You need a mop and a bucket for that, I reckoned. Anyway, are we in agreement for taking this guy on? You don't get access to former army captains every day. Now if our recruits can't figure out which end the gun bullets come from. I guess so, but this still doesn't sit right with me. Still, we need all the help we can get. Zarkadenos cleared his throat and swerved his eyes over each cabinet member. There's a festering moral rot among the best and brightest of our nation. The men and women tomorrow are heirs, our children. It springs from these so-called cafe cantantes. I did not fight the usurper Huerta just to have our revolution swept under our feet by imperialist American music. Cornelius' voice tightened, feeling an indignant lump in his throat. It took a moment to collect his thoughts. I feel that everything we've worked for will be naught if our young people become shallow materialists. Luisa Chaviera interjected, looming over a few sheets of paper. Your Excellency, I'm very much in disagreement. Taking the liberty of collecting, I'm guessing. Reports courtesy of DFS. Here's one, for example. He trailed his finger, along the opening sentence. Sources report a cafe in one bar has been taken over by squatters who host reefer parties. A general assumption can be made that these establishments are becoming a breeding ground for drug use and rebellious antisocial behavior. Oh, and apparently youth gangs, too. An incident was noted of a mass brawl outside one cafe. One boy was stabbed. Horrible, Madrazo thought. Stroked his chin and was about to query Alfonso de Rosal, but his head of federal district spoke first. A rigid frown knit in his brow. I can assure you, Your Excellency, that Licenciado Echeverria will be pleased to hear that this is not that big the big problem. The DF has insisted is to be under my management. Echeverria seemed primed to respond, but Javier Sierra entered with his own report. How do we expect the youth to be future leaders if we deny them liberty because of your prejudices? Let them play their music. Punish the wrongdoers, yes, but this is fussing over nothing. Were you all not young once? Mazo held up a palm for Sierra to wrap it up. He made his decision. Monitor them. We can fund youth clubs as an alternative. Alright, so... how's our flame going right now? So nationalism is at 4. So we have... let's do the Great Southern Plan. Discovering Tabasco, Madras was able to turn the province from a struggling, forgotten section of state to a prospering and modernized community. The success wouldn't be able to be achieved without welfare programs, moderate reforms, and public solidarity. The face opposition of the radical left and greedy corporations, the strength of pragmatism and socialism prevailed. Reflecting on these achievements, it's vital that moderate changes prioritize over radical actions. While Elector 27 is powerful, we cannot risk our economic stability. Instead, we'll solely nationalize our resources and collectivize certain production facilities, such as distilleries, bakeries, and canneries. Democracy returns to Italy. Madras allowed his stiff joints to relax after he got in the car. The motorcade quickly picking up to speed and going down the roadway. It was an exhausting event, one that finally registered as over once he saw the sign exiting Santiago de Querétaro. the count of buildings dwindled before he was greeted by the sheer landscape, what appeared to be a commercial vineyard in a faraway small town. One command to the driver later, and he found himself in front of another crowd that day, with smiles all around, until he asked, "Tell me, how have your lives been reshaped by the recent order?" Smiles turned strained. Small shuffles between the residents and answers spilled out of their mouths. "It's been fine, a bit different, but still the same line. Some improvements across the..." Nothing! Madrazo turned around towards the rapidly approaching outburst. A woman with hands on her hips and isolated herself from a small crowd. "Has changed. Forgive me, Your Excellency, but we have not seen a single one of your promises here. The Americans, they bribed the CNC rep, paid him off like always. Let us take whatever they want to do to us," and he looks the other way. Now, here he sits, a few days since that encounter had gone by. The desperation that was seared into her voice, reverberating each time he glanced down at the initial investigation reports. He ordered one immediately after arriving back at the presidential palace. There was a worrying sign developing as each paragraph after paragraph made clear. "It'll take much more force to see through what you have dreamed." Well, our loyalty is doing pretty well thus far. Hotel Vermont's conference center was arrayed in a constellation of round, clothed tables laden with steaming plates and topped-off wine glasses. As a center, appropriately distanced from Monterey tech economists and industrial magnates, were the governors of Mexico's northern states. This group, the focal point of inaugural Chihuahua City Joint Economic Development Forum, did not discuss commerce or trade in the last 20 minutes, unless trading barbs against President Madrazo counted. Their hopes, Governor Praedas Guinea Duran, breathless and red in the face, had launched an entire diatribe. "The president wants us to do this, do that, like he knows how to run our states. He thinks it's just like his Indian huts in the village. We need to stand together and stop this overreach from the National Palace, take a hard line on the bandits, protect the small landowners, and give a Madrazo to Madrazo." Amidst the laughter and cigar smoke, Governor of Sinaloa, Leopoldo Sanchez Solis, grinned. "Why not go further? You're a general revolution, Praedas. He's just a street thug with a big mouth." Even with the jabber of 100 business pitches echoing around him, a hush descended on the central table. Guinea Duran took a bite of beef, chomping furiously. At last he swallowed and met Solis's eyes. "Madrazo's pet snake at Echeverria have got me in a pinch. Withholding funds, withholding the troops I need to deal with these Bolsheviks until I follow the little script. If you stand by me now, with money and guns, I'll show how important that Sereno really is." But their promises of aid lasted only as far as the airport. Alright, get some schools going. Like the idea of building some schools. Let's get it going. Yeah. Do want to... Federal District needs a school too. Let's look at... I want a Federal District. The Cannery. They called it the Cannery because its legal name was unpronounceable Japanese gibberish. It was a band of Colonia... Speaking of unpronounceable gibberish, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say that. Existence. Once owned by the Zaibatsu in Japan and managed by a Korean expat who could finally let up the pent-out rage that had been living under the Japanese entire life. The cannery was known to squeeze the Aikido for every centavo it could, offering criminally low prices for the corn that the Comsenos grew. The cannery would package the corn and send it up to upmarket grocery stores in Japan, while the farmers would walk away with scarcely enough to make their efforts worth it. And the campesinos would curse the fact the cannery was the only one operating in their area, holding the village under monopoly. It was not the Aikido militant they expected to bring the good news. For too long, he promised the Pri would make things better, so much So everyone had stopped listening to him. But Day screamed with enough vigor and enthusiasm, and everyone had to think he really did believe in the news he was spreading. The teacher confirmed the words on the paper. The cannery was going to be nationalized by the government. The paperwork was signed by Madrazo himself, and Mexico City was promising to buy the corn at a price floor better than the market. The priest's mind went to writing a sermon giving thanks to God for this act. Many housewives and children thought of clothes, toys, and furnishings they could buy. A few more ambitious campesinos thought about the top-line fertilizers and tools that they could purchase to get even more money. But for many, they thought of one thing only. This was their ancestors throwing off a Spanish hacienda. This was the oil being expropriated from the Americans and British. This was the rich Germans fleeing the coffee farms. Now, the arc of revolution had come for them. When the crowd arrived at the cannery, they found the manager had already turned tail and ran. The workers, they were not sorry to see him go. In fact, the rumors of profit sharing made them more than open to this new arrangement. So much so that they didn't mind that the campesinos stormed the front office, smashed the Japanese sign on the roof, and hung the Mexican flag while singing Viva Mexico, Viva America. In fact, the main disagreement with the ejido the cannery had was what patriotic name to give it. Would be we remiss to suggest Carlos Madrazo. And what do they think? And Mexican states and Japan stand united against... Oh, that's a funny joke. We might surprise students that VIA too enjoyed warm relations with the U.S. for a time. I'll actually take that. What do they think? We stand at the crossroads of two superpowers, one of corporate liberty and the other of imperialist liberation. And Mexico remains alone in the dark, a revolution left unnoticed. It is that revolution that keeps our flame burning. The face of the imperialists who strive for freedom. The face of corporate gain, social welfare provides for the people. The face of foreign bourgeois, the Mexican proletariat strikes back. It is with this fact that we must prepare for their reactions and potential retaliations. For even if the revolution marches on, our sovereignty is threatened by their oversight. To calculate a response is nearly possible, but the preparations are very reasonable. In case of extreme backlash, we can, of course, use our national reserves. Well, Camilla and about 20 other youths swayed in their stupor. She felt herself bumbling into other goers, but the mood was decidedly mellow all around. What would have earned a push or a shove on the street was instead rewarded with indifferent smiles and slurred apologies. I'll get that going. Alcohol rendered most of them all placid marionettes, but not sober Camilla. For trouble, the Bridges flute solo seemed to provoke particular ecstasy. This is what heaven must be like. The film she had skipped earlier came to mind to spoil the moment. Some spiel about a boy from an ejido who made his dream come true by competing at the Olympics. So stupid, she thought. Someone would want to train for the high jump when they could listen to music and dance all day from morning to end. She would never leave this place. Building glass shattering rang in her ear. Screams sounded out. The music continued playing while Camilla pressed her hands to her mouth, horror gaping horror. A boy lay writhing on the floor, blood pooling from his head as he convulsed. A girl was using her coat to wipe away the mess, clutching his head, all the while waiting at the top of her lungs. A fragment of a brick broke apart a few feet away. The crowd began to surge all around Camille as a tidal wave rocked towards the doors. She felt herself being pulled and pushed apart, desperately gripping onto other people's shoulders to stay upright. The bright street lights seemed to flicker uncontrollably as the doors swung, only then settle as her eyes adjusted to the well-lit evening. Hoodlums, all red-shirted, stood up in uproar, jostling and pushing the day's partygoers as they streamed out of the cafe. Camille was accosted by one. Still in shock, she could barely read the lips, let alone hear anything but the noise, who shouted and barked and spat in her face. She ran for her life as the world seemed to close in. All the leaves are brown, and the sky is gray. I'm not entirely sure I understand what the hell happened there. The embassy's back rooms were Spartan, bare, but this was not a task that demanded formality. Fulton Freeman and Adolfo Rudolph Wistrick, Director of the Organization of Inter-American Affairs, sat and exchanged generic pleasantries. They're much more interested in the contents of the draft letter, Freeman dutifully tapping the keys with intermittent rings, while Wistrick spat out ideas as it came to him. Mentioned that while the U.S. government's thankful that the Madrazo administration did not go for absolute nationalization, say something like, I don't know. It advises against the seizure of select foreign economic assets, recommending their restraint on issues of trade. Witrick shrugged, nursing a cigarillo that he smoked from. Whatever you think. We don't want to push him to go even farther by trading barbs. I wonder why he didn't go all the way, so to speak. You know he can't piss us and the investors off too much, but he has to throw the Carnices a bone or two. As long as it's as far as it goes, Fulton, then we're winning. The typewriter dinged again. Well, it's not too bad overall. We got some time yet. Let's do Mena's failures. The renowned Antonio Ortiz Mena is claimed by many in the party to be the architect of the Mexican miracle. While there may be some merit to this claim, it's undeniable that this plan of mass industrialization butchered not only a revolution, but the agrarian background of the party and the nation itself. Well, it would be more hassle than it's worth to dismiss him outright. We'll work with Mena in order to let him fix his own failures. There we go. I think once this third strike is over, we'll be able to end the doctor's strike once and for all. I'm hoping. The fires of socialist revolution provide a fitting backdrop for the trial, thought Arturo Gomez. The vast flumes of smoke erupting from the Jimenez liquor distillery in the manor were joined by countless smaller streams as peasants burned the sheets of debt the caciques had forced on them. After Las Cadillo, Cebadia, and his cornered men had surrendered to Salvador Gamin's column, the peasants had surged straight for those supposed records, those lies. The bounty of the menace seller endowed the proceedings with a carnivalesque atmosphere. GPG members would take turns swigging tequila and keeping guns trained at the caudillos and their disarmed goons. Rural police turned revolutionaries would hurl abuse at Ibarra and Rascon between bites of carne asada. Gypsy Jacobo was struggling to contain a broad grin behind the stern mask of revolutionary justice. Emilia Rascon, barked Mayor Salomon Gaitan. You're hereby charged with robbery, kidnapping, assault, of the killing of Pepe Martinez, and the exploitation of the good people of Cebadia. What say the people to these charges? A resounding cry went up and Arturo nodded. Convicted. And sentenced to death by the firing squad. Jesus Fernandez and Pablo Gomez led a shaking rascal and still clutching his wounded arm to the side of his distillery. Mary and an assortment of his former tenants trailed eagerly behind, holding a clutch of borrowed firearms. The ragtag fuselage that followed almost eclipsed Solomon's shout. Florentino Ibarra. What do we want to do? If the plan is 65. Some more infrastructure I think would be good. More resources too. Instead of focusing our economy solely on growth, Madrazo proposed a new idea to steer the nation. It was the original revitalization plan of Tabasco that truly put him on the federal stage, and now we are ready to bring it to the national level. From grocery stores, to roadways, to resource extraction. All manner of the public sector will be expanded upon in a national development model that will bring new life to Mexico. Due to the cost of such a plan, Ortiz Menez naturally objected, demanding we either narrow the scope of the plan by leaving out some more ambitious parts out, or expanding our resource extraction efforts to much more boldly and including areas dismissed due to their impact on the local environment. There's no stopping Madrazo on this, but should we try to moderate it? Well, that's a question, isn't it? Secretary Echeverria and Secretary Ortega wrote this? They couldn't be going where I think they might be. But what else could they mean? Think. They're probably following the president's orders. Even Madrazo wouldn't change. Could he? Who's going to tell Secretary Mena? Humming, the lights above filled their ears, and the small gust through a ceiling fan howled. The haze and buzz that was soaring up above crashed into a scream of ambiance, and no one moved. They all looked at the small woman holding the copy of Siempre in her hands, as her eyes begged for someone else. Still the ambulance held, and steadfast were the feet damning the barriers of a job courier. Slowly, the secretary held the copy close to her, her breath rising and falling as she got closer to his office, placing it on the floor and gently batting it in. Mena felt a slight uptick, hearing the brush of paper against the floor and the rapidly retreating footsteps from outside, picking up an economic misstep. The initial belief that as a current mode of the economy, one of stabilizing development, is perfect and requires no major changes, has been debunked by recent research, in which it was discovered that the poorest Mexicans were immensely disadvantaged in almost every part. So, it is in the best interest of the nation to conduct various changes of their coming. Men interrupted the paper and threw it on the desk, rushing for his notes. It wouldn't end here, no. It wouldn't stop until His Excellency got what he wanted. It's the beginning of the end. Oh yeah, he's got a gun. Let's get those concessions done. Oh, fuck. I didn't mean to do... Hold on. I will go and read that event real quick, just in case. Those bastards forced his hand. Madrazo paced up and down the length of his office in the National Palace. He'd sat at the telephone for ages, fingers wrapped around the cord, willing to call the Telesistema Mexicano. Asked for a special slot to address the nation as to why the mass arrest, the blacklisting, the action against the AMM, now it was all necessary for good of the public weal, but his throat clammed. For one of the few times in his life, he could not find the words to express himself, merely sitting there as a lion drowned in static. He sat in a study with a book of Lopez Mateos' speeches, flickering through the year after year of remarks. 1958, 1959, 1960. Of course, the rail strikes. The elected president was not afraid to put his foot down against trade unionists. Madrazo stood, holding his book with glasses affixed, gesturing with pomp. It's clear to all good, hard-working people that these strikes have been perpetuated by a stubborn, upper-class minority who wish to enrich themselves at the expense of the state. He felt the balm of relief as words streamed into his heart opened to the people, and who intend precariously to live beyond their means. The book closed shut. His enthusiasm withered away. President Madrazo felt nothing. I'm going to reload now, though, because I do not want that. Pause the timer. Sky's gray. Oh, we have to keep the radicalism under 40. Okay, I didn't realize that. Make the one demand. Chatter filled the large chamber, being perpetuated by the many representatives of both the AMM and the Armory. It was not solely because of them that this room was a den of sentences and debates. Part of the fault lay with the Secretary of Health and Welfare, Carlos Canseco Gonzalez, along with President Madrazo himself. More debates occur between the organizations and government, both expecting to hold firm like they always have. The EMM and the Armory, they met negotiating for the best possible offer before their attention to the media faded, allowing the government to crack down, and I am willing. Drowser suddenly stood up, echoing his voice to all the delegates present. To accept all the demands you've listed thus far. What in the... I will recognize AMM, like banning a group stemming from it, as an official and legitimate union under one condition. That condition being that you must join CNOP, and that condition is firm. Immediately, the silence room burst back into full swing debates, some thinking of the offers of bargain, the best they'll get. In turn for expressing this, though, they were confronted by accusations of selling out and that they should hold firm. Drowser could see the burning hot debates going around the table of representatives. He would be forced to emphasize a certain part of them to get in line. You see, there's much to be gained by joining the Confederation. Make sure we select that. Got that going again. Okay, there we go. Everyone understand, excuse me. As former president and new Olympic Organizing Committee Chairman, Adolfo Lopez Mateos. Alright, I think this was a successful meeting. Let's get back to work. As the members of the Organizing Committee left, Vice Chairman Ramirez went over to him and said, "Welcome to the team, Mr. President. Glad your successor had a good judgment to put you in charge." The job was mine. I just had to ask for it. But it's great to be working with you, Pedro. Now, I guess we're a firm instead of a client the contractor. Seems that way. A bit of effort, we're going to put some of the greatest off the greatest event since the centennial celebrations. It doesn't feel real, Lopez said as he looked at a model of the Olympic Stadium enhancements. The first Olympic Games in Latin America are our first chance to show ourselves off to the world. We're already making this event, too, a full year of a cultural festival. Thousands of people from across the globe, and millions joining by the televisions. In this moment, Mexico could shake off the chains of the past and come forth as an international, prosperous state. This is going to be our legacy, Pedro. Not the presidency or the buildings. Those don't matter to the world. What does matter is that in our lifetimes, that you and I are going to see a troubled country finally declare to the world it has arrived. No longer will it be the butt of jokes or a land of foreign backwater. These games will be a great source of pride and inspiration to Adolfo? Another goddamn migraine. Let's find someplace dark. Seems to be happening more frequently. Let's make the fight everyone's. Do some daily press reports. Francisco let himself in through the door, dusting his shoes off on the carpet. Oh, real quick, I gotta do that again. And then rain struck the window in a constant patter as a lone bead of water periodically dripped from a kitchen sink tap. Young a soaked hat and coat up on the hanger. One ear perked up at the sound of crackled, muffled speech from the sitting room. "Paco, is that you?" came the voice of his grandmother as he entered, arms akimbo to embrace her. "Abuelito." Francisco grinned, patting her on the shoulder. His grandfather sat all stiff in his rocking chair and began infirm as it was. Severe arthritis. He did not stand to receive Francisco, both instead sharing a handshake in the midst of the lit hearth. A fire, raging to take the chill off his grandfather's feeble bones. Baco took a spare seat and gestured vaguely to wireless. What's on tonight? Have you not been listening to President Madrazo's updates? He opened his mouth to question why his grandparents, staunch conservatives, who held anything remotely left as an anathema, were so interested in what the embodiment of what they had to say, but was shut. I emphasize very dearly the struggles of our junior office doctors. We're making good progress to listen to their concerns and to make amends through the recent negotiations. Negotiations? What negotiations? The government was taking to them, and it sounded quite sincere, too, warm. Not like the usual bureaucratic crap that merely registered as noise in his mind whenever he heard them over the radio or on the television. He felt heard. No, but I might start. Oh, and there goes Indonesia. There's Mr. Wallace having his, And that's just out of Cebadia alone. Echeverria slapped a lengthy report on the table. So here we have it, senor. Dozens of landowners publicly executed, police officers routinely killed, and every day our soldiers find themselves in a new ambush. Every report I compiled, and I have gone through many, says it's only going to get worse from here. You know as well as I do, Governor Guinea Duran has lost control of the state and refuses to admit it. And that leaves only one option. Invoke dissolution of powers and get him out of the way. That's one solution. Dissolution of a state government comes with many downsides, however. It's what happened to Guerrero, and I don't want to pull that card everyone else used when the state didn't go the way of central government. Especially when we know the alternative. He just needs to stop messing around and get with the program. Give out the land, clean the house inside, and he'll solve the problem. We know this, and if he gets his head in the game, he can do it instead of limp-wristed trying to have the best of both worlds. He just needs to see. Echeverria partly smiled, partly grimaced. About that. He says he reached across the table and picked up a nice and shiny Sony tape recorder, setting it in front of them. I'd wondered what the governor was saying in private, just to gauge the mood. So I had the DFS do some routine surveillance, and this is what they recorded. He pressed the play button. Goddamn abomination, came the voice of Governor Duran. The president wants us to do this, do that. He knows how to run our states. He thinks like this is just like his Indian huts in the jungle. A few laughs and cheers. We need to stand together and stop this overreach for the National Palace. Take a hard line on the bandits, protect the small landowners, and give them a Madrazo to Madrazo. Click. Madrazo had heard enough. He took a breath, controlling his anger, and growled. Why the hell did he say this? Echeverria couldn't help but give a slight smile. At a conference of governors in Chihuahua, senor. Kick his ass. See, Your Excellency. And find someone who will do the job without giving us shit. Speaking of not giving us shit, I'm going to go ahead and leave things there. Thanks always for watching, my friends. Like to see if you liked, dislike if you didn't. Leaving comments feedback down in the comment section below. I read all the comments I get, and I do appreciate any feedback you might have for me. Check out my various links down in the description box below. Leaving comments feedback down in the comment section below, and hit the sub button notification bell for uploads weekdays as well as occasionally Saturdays. I'm going to leave it there, my friends, but I thank you all for watching. My name has been Mr. Dog333. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.